morning. When I say that, I'm always scared no one will respond. And I think, oh, what do I do now? I'm sure that when some of you saw the title of today's, and I don't say sermon, today's discussion, that you thought, Christmas and Lois Ann? Really? Does she ever get over this? Well, the answer to that is no. But I did think that thinking about the last month and where we are today was a good way to begin my discussion today. So here we are, 18 days into January. We have experienced Advent, Christmas, Epiphany, a new year, and now here we are at King's birthday. Actually, his birthday was last Thursday, January 15th, but somehow the government got into it and it got things turned around. He would be 97 last Thursday. But let's come back to January 1st. How many of you made some resolutions for 2026? That's not a rhetorical question. How many of you made some resolutions for it? So you sat down or stood up, I don't know, and thought about some changes that you needed to make for 2026. Get rid of some pounds, yeah. Get rid of clutter. Get finances in order. Get a new budget. Stick to it. How many of you did that? Some of those things fell into your resolutions? Honest man back there. Do you realize that 25% of the people who make resolutions have blown it by the end of the first week? And there's a title for that, a real title. It's called Quitter Day. I've experienced it many times. 18 days into those resolutions, here we are, how many of you have already given up on some of those resolutions? Jeff and I are the only ones. Jeff, we're a special group, aren't we? I don't know about you. I don't write them down. I don't put them on the refrigerator. I don't put them on the mirror. I call them my mental resolutions, but I do make them. And every year I go, why am I making more resolutions? Because every year they're exactly the same resolutions. And every year within a week, I have given up on them. I'm a quitter. But for some reason, and I can't explain why, this year was somewhat different. I reflected on those resolutions and realized, and maybe this has always been true, but I realized how superficial are they. Now, some of you may be ahead of me. It occurred to me that mine did not challenge me in any way. No matter how I tried to rationalize my resolutions, there was nothing there that challenged me. And as I thought back on it, and I didn't realize Ryan was going to be here today, or I would have just given him this sermon. As I reflected on it, my thinking went back to the beginning of Advent. And that, not trying to make you, I don't know where you are, I lost you back there. Did he hide and run away? But there he is. As I thought back on the beginning of Advent, I remembered that sermon that Ryan shared with us that day. It was about the need for darkness, how we had to go through the dark in order to get to the light. And I found that very, very moving. And then I started moving myself through the holidays, and it occurred to me that at this point in time, I had packed away all the good lessons that I had learned during that time. I had packed away all those special experiences that I had at that time. And they really did have to do with the real meaning of Christmas, both in my thinking and in my actions. I had put all those good lessons that I had learned into my mental box. I'd packed them away so early so early into the year. The tree was still up. Notice I said tree, not trees. The tree was still up. The lights got turned on at night. There were a few holiday goodies still available. But when the new year arrived, I had to accept that every resolution I had made, I had failed. Not only could I experience quitter day, but I could also experience failure day. Not one of those, and I want you to think about yourself, because I'm making myself very vulnerable here, and I want you to think about yourself. None of those challenged me to make a real effort to improve the lives of others. Whatever my resolution was all about me in my little world. Nothing made me think about, for example, poverty in a broader way. You see, while I was doing my research on King for this preparation for today, I was also led to the work of Mother Teresa. And I learned that Mother Teresa and Dr. King agreed strongly on the definition of poverty. And when I first saw that, I thought, well, don't we all have a definition of poverty? I mean, really? It's about hunger, right? It's about homelessness. It's about nakedness. We all think about the definition of hunger in that way. But Dr. King and Mother Teresa both believed that there was a greater poverty. Being unwanted, being unloved, and being uncared for. That smacked me up the side of the head. How could I be almost 80 years old and all this time thought that poverty was about homelessness, not about people's feelings of being unwanted, unloved, uncared for? And that caused me to go back to my resolutions. How many of mine, I don't know about you, focused on other people that way? Did any of my resolutions focus on caring for the marginalized, the unloved, the unwanted, or the uncared for? None. Not one. And you can reflect on your own resolutions and see where you might be on that. When I began to mull over speaking today, my thoughts always returned to why I don't think I should be packing Christmas away. The teachings of Christmas, the lessons of Christmas, the purpose of Christmas should stay with me. They should stay outside the box. I considered for this day whether or not I should talk about King's letter from the Birmingham jail, which I've always appreciated. He did it to ministers, 1963, or if I should do his I Have a Dream speech, which was given on March on Washington, also in 63. And then, Ryan, I did remember your excellent sermon on Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. That was one that really made us think about war. Or the one that has always been most meaningful to me, his mountaintop address, which was given the day before he was assassinated. But then I remembered hearing about a sermon that Dr. King had given in 1967. We refer to that sermon as the last Christmas Eve sermon. Sometimes it's referred to as the Christmas Sermon on Peace. And this particular sermon was 4 months before he was assassinated. But when I heard the sermon, it was in 1970. King had already been assassinated, but I did not hear it until 1970. And it was 2 years later. So it was read, this sermon was read by my major doctoral professor, Dr. Earl Bradley. Dr. Bradley was a man of faith, not a man of organized religion. He was a man of action. He was a man who believed in the value of all human beings. And I knew him for 5, 6 years, and that was what I saw in him almost every day, that people are to be valued. So rather than reading that speech to us during the holidays, he read it later, and some of you will remember this time, when the Kent State Massacre occurred, 1970. The only way I can describe it would be to say this national tragedy was when the Ohio National Guard shot and killed 4 Kent State students and injured 9 others. What were they doing that caused this? They were protesting. They were protesting the Vietnam War, the presence of the National Guard on campus, and they were protesting the military draft. It's ironic, isn't it, to think of the governmental actions that we're living through now when we put them against the context of Dr. King's speech. His opening words in his Christmas Eve sermon seem to reflect what many of us may have been thinking back in December. I don't know about you, but for me, it certainly expresses what I've been feeling since the beginning of this new year, especially the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, we have experienced so much tragedy. And one that stands out is with the killing of Renee Good. Sadly, ironic, the killing of Good. King's sermon begins, and I quote, "This Christmas season finds us a rather bewildered human race." Sounds familiar. "We have neither peace within nor peace without. Everywhere we look, paralyzing fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. Our work is sick with war. And yet, my friends," and he continues, "the Christmas hope for peace and goodwill toward all can no longer be dismissed. It's no longer the simple lyrics to a song. It's a kind of pious dream of some utopian. If we don't have goodwill toward all in this world, we will destroy ourselves by the misuse of our own instruments and our own power." Those are the words from his Christmas sermon. As the sermon continues, King reminds us of the 3 kinds of love. And Claire did a beautiful job with the children's message this morning, talking about one of them. Eros, which is a romantic love. Philia, which is a deep friendship. And agape, which is an unconditional, selfless love. Unconditional, selfless love. In this sermon, King talks about the 3 kinds of love, and he says that, as does the Bible, as does Claire, that agape love is the most powerful, that it's an active love. It's more than affection. It's more than, gee, I love pizza, or gee, I love ice cream. It is so much about understanding, about creative goodwill toward all people. And then he adds to that, even our enemies. Now, perhaps I'm the only person here who has an enemy or enemies. But think about, if you happen to have one or you know someone who does, think about the idea there of loving them. Yeah, we've all read the scripture. We know what we're supposed to do. But I'm asking you in terms of your everyday life, in terms of real action, loving your enemies. I don't know about you, but I find it challenging. Agape love is rooted in God's love. It demands justice, community building, and again, as I said, it sees the value, the inherent worth in every human being. I was a teacher for 43 years. I love pop quizzes. I love them because I could always tell who had really read the assignment. And so I'm going to do a pop quiz with you. Don't panic, don't leave, don't pretend you need to go to the restroom, because I'm not asking you to to respond verbally. Verbally. I began to wonder, after so many times of reading this speech and hearing about it, how many people had agape love in their resolutions. Selfless, unconditional love. Selfless, unconditional acceptance of anyone, even their enemies. I failed again. I don't know about you, but I failed. Think about it. Love, one of the things is that love asks nothing in return. Can you and I really get there? Nothing in return? And this is it. Could we pass the agape test? You may have noticed that Scripture was not listed in the program. That was not an accident. That's my test, my pop quiz. Listen to this carefully. Most of you could quote it, but that's not the point. The point is, even if you can quote it, do you live it? Do I live it? If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And then here comes the pop quiz. You can answer for yourself. Love is patient. I'm not. I don't know about you. Love is kind. I try to be, but I fail so often. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. I fail again. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And this next line is so operative. Love never fails. But now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. How many of you express love because you're always patient, you're always kind, you do not envy, you do not boast, you do not dishonor others, you are not self-seeking? You don't have to answer that. But think about it for yourself, as I'm thinking about it for myself. It's not just what King is calling us to do, but it is in fact how Jesus lived and how he asked us to live. It's so easy to love people who are always patient, always kind, never irritable, never remembering the past wrongs. It's really easy to love those people. But there are relatively few of those people. And they contrast sharply with those in our families, our nation, and elsewhere who find Jesus' clear definition of love to be inconvenient. Really, Jesus? Why did you make it so hard for us to love? I mean, it's hard when you think about what has been said here. How difficult and complex it is to follow Jesus and love these others. King continues. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Now, I was talking this week with a friend of mine about what I was going to say, and I was talking with her about King, and she said a shocking statement to me. She said, King really had an easier life than we do today, didn't he? Life was pretty easy for him. And I tried to be patient and kind and all those things, but it was difficult. I was surprised by the statement, and I immediately, which is a problem I have, started to remind her of the span of his life. He was born in 1929, at the beginning of the Great Depression. He lived through World War II. He experienced all the hatred as a result of racism and the violence in the streets. He experienced the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. In 1963, he experienced the killing of Medgar Evers and the assassination of JFK. Then in 1965, the assassination of Malcolm X, the escalation of the Vietnam War. And then to end his life, in what my friend called a simpler time, King was assassinated in 1968. I don't call those good times. I would say that they are not any better times than we are experiencing today. Now, why did I go through all of this history or all of these events? I could have gone through more if my brain were sharper. But Martin Luther King Jr. lived through and attempted to actuate agape love during all of these events. And many more. He tried so hard. He's a model for us in terms of how to live our lives and in a way that that there is agape love. It's tragic today that we are living through this again, whether it's together, nationally, or individually. But the words of King, whether it's in his speeches or his writings, leave us this message. And I would like for us to leave here today with this message. We must learn to live together. We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we're all going to perish together as fools. I was thinking about when some of you are older, what will you be listing as major events of the 2020s? Too early to tell, maybe, but we can see enough of the events of the decade that King quotes to remind us that there's an element of truth we're seeing today. But again, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we're going to perish together as fools. That's a statement to ponder. Even if Christmas has passed, let us remember to believe in the value of all people, no matter race, religion, class, or gender. We must learn to live together in peace. We must live a life that shows agape love, one that is filled with mutual respect for all. Think through this past week, think through the last 2 weeks. Have there been times where your brain has let you think things that did not express agape love towards someone else? Let us not pack away the teachings of Dr. King. Those teachings grounded those grounded in the teachings of Jesus. We are living, and I know this may sound dark, and I apologize. No, I don't apologize. Forget that. We are living in times of deep strife. It's a time of struggle, but King tells us that through agape love, there is hope for a better world. We must learn to love the total person, even if we oppose the evil acts of the person. Fill that one in with whatever name comes to your mind. King says we're all interconnected. We must see the good in all. And he says, because the good in all is there. That's a difficult one. That one's there for a long debate, isn't it? Believing in and acting out agape is what empowers us to work for power, for peace and justice. To look deep into the eyes of each person and see the life, the love of Jesus. To recognize that our brothers and sisters are everywhere. King closes his sermon with these words, and I quote, "Yes, I am personally the victim of deferred dreams, of blasted hopes, but in spite of that, I close today by saying, I still have a dream. I still have a dream, because you can't give up in life. If you lose hope, somehow you lose the vitality that keeps life going on. You lose the courage to be. That quality that helps you go on in spite of all. In spite of all. And so today, I still have a dream." End of quote. And I wish the same for you. Amen.